Hello everybody and welcome back for what's probably going to be one of the last outdoor clips in these Sundays in the Gardens for 2018. The fall is coming. You know, we had some wicked storms. It's September. It is what it is. September seems to be storm season out here. We do have a few things that are still growing on. A few tomatoes and such outside. For the most part, everything's been harvested though, so this is all just kind of, I don't know, just 'cause outside. Got some stuff down in the dungeon we'll take a look at in a little bit. It's not looking well, but that's kind of how it goes with this transition time. Moving things indoors is always kind of tricky, and most people just don't even bother. I, on the other hand, am stubborn, so of course I do. Let's get started at looking what got left out here and what else is still growing on. That most recent raised bed, we left these tomatoes in. For the most part, I do have one of them downstairs in the dungeon, but these little guys didn't seem to crack or freeze or explode or anything with that one frosty night that we had. So I guess basically what I learned there is that tomatoes are a lot more sensitive when you put them out than when the end of the season comes, and they can actually handle a frosty night or two. Maybe not a deep freeze, but these guys have lived through, well, what the tablet weather app claims is 0 and below. Very interesting. How amusing. The acorn squash is producing a nice flower. Not much it's going to be able to do at this point though. Still haven't chopped up all the corn. We had some rain, so a little soggy at the moment. Bunker tomatoes are still alive and well, looking a little more freakish because they're not being blocked by the corn. But again, those colder temperatures didn't seem to do it any harm. So I think in future years I don't need to be quite as worried about those first cold nights coming in. You know, it's all a learning curve though, isn't it? This thing looks pretty healthy to me though. That is a thick, sturdy leaf. Might as well start cutting them down, but at the same time, I don't know, if I leave them to go until they die on their own, then I know exactly when they're actually going to die, don't I? Rain certainly seems to have cleaned off some of those carrots down there. Nice color to them though. Yeah, very pleased with how well the carrots did this year. Hoping it's a sign that I've actually figured something out when it comes to growing those. The rose was a good idea. Never getting around to thinning them also seemed to be a very good idea. Gotten some pretty substantial carrots out of this. Let's see what today's pull is. See, now that looks like a nice carrot top. Short, fat carrots. Very cute. Oh, that was a little larger, eh? Not too bad, though. A few carrots to snack on throughout the day. Now, I don't know. Should I be covering those back up, or still got a lot to learn about carrots? I guess in theory the tops of these things could be fed to chickens. I don't know. As you can tell, I still haven't cut down the thistle. So lazy at this time of the garden year. I just don't want it to end, so I'm like kind of in denial, I guess. Shard seeds coming along fairly nicely. I never really did learn at what point they were fully viable as seeds, because when I saved shard seeds back in 2012, the plant kind of died off and dried off, and well, I knocked them off, and that seemed to work, but I don't know if that's going to have time to develop that far. I might just have to cut them green and dry them inside, see what works. All of our very late planting of beets are coming up, so that's good. I'm going to let those grow as long as I can before I take them down for fish food and microgreens for us. But yeah, not a whole lot growing on out here. few tomatoes left in there. The plants themselves are doing great, but the fruit, the ones that got left in there all had issues of some sort, so may look like there's a few good ones, but they're not. On our way downstairs, I figured we'd stop and check the kitchen windowsill. Parsley's coming along quite nicely. This Bad Brains actually showing some signs of growth, and check out the Reaper here. I am blown away by how much this has grown over the last few weeks. This is very exciting considering all the troubles that I've had, and the fact that I've only got 2 seeds left, which are both currently in moist soil and showing no signs of sprouting. So, yes, grow, little Reaper, grow. Speaking of Reaper seeds going nowhere fast, I guess that's where we'll start down here in the dungeon. Nothing coming up from any of these seed plantings yet. Can't say that I'm terribly surprised for a host of reasons. That Ahi Fantasy still trucking along, not doing anywhere near as well as the ones in the upstairs windowsill, but don't really have room for that one up there. Got all of those cuttings, a whole lot more flowers that have made themselves visible in the last few days, so I'll have to come down here with the scissors, little tiny scissors, and clip those off. I don't know, maybe even nail clippers. Does not look good for these ones under the humidome, but until they're fully, clearly dead, I will leave them to do their thing. And I put a whole bunch of ghost pepper seeds in there just cause. Nothing coming up there yet either. So yes, I still kind of think before I'm going to have any kind of real success rate down here, I need to get some sort of a tent setup going, but that's not going to stop me from getting started now. Anyway, looking under the Mars Hydro LED, the aquaponic garden here, we've got the sage. Looking pretty good, actually. Definitely doing much, much better since that panic's been taken out. We've got a couple of cuttings for the oregano here. This one, I'm pretty sure, is completely dead. But this one seems to have some signs of growth on it. That looks pretty good over there. So, if one roots and one doesn't, 50-50 is not bad. I'll take that. At least I've got one more plant out of this deal. And that I can just feed to the fish. This is basically just dried oregano. They seem to be rather fond of that. So I filled this one with some mint. It only looks like a couple of sprigs now, but this was only a couple of sprigs not that long ago. So that is why I used the word filled for describing that mint. I also filled that one. Safe bet that mint's gonna root. So that's always good. Getting on time to cut this down again. I usually cut it to, just about here. Harvest that off. I really should start weighing the aquaponic mint that I'm cutting down, because it's getting to be a lot. But generally I'm just throwing it into the fish tank. Same with most of this basil. I'm just kind of throwing it into the fish tank as well. Provide that natural food solution for them. This basil, same deal. Not giving them the sage, because I've read that sage can be toxic to some pets. Haven't investigated enough to see if goldfish are on that list. So, handful of salad. Let's check out the fish while we're over here. They have plenty of mint still floating around in there because of recent cuttings made to the other mint as it came in and got rearranged and stuff. The fish themselves, though, still seem to be pretty content. It's not the cleanest that their tank has ever been, and yet this is far from the filthiest tank I've ever presented in an aquaponic video update. Definitely happy, healthy fish, though. Their colors are all very strong. Peaches is still very pale. The blacks are all very dark. So yes, something is working right, at least from the goldfish perspective. And this is where we get to question marks and tragedies, which I suppose would be a good video title for this. The Nepalese bell seems to be doing all right, so that is hopeful. I'm feeling pretty good about that. I'm gonna keep an eye on it for pests and all kinds of things, and I will be going over these plants as often as possible to just squish any aphids I do find on there. I'm going to try not to spray the leaves with any kind of soaps or whatever, because that does clog them up. It becomes difficult for them to breathe. This is one of the red demons that kind of looked a little more, I don't know, cayenne almost, or a bit like the garden salsa, but not quite. The pepper pods, still very solid. A lot of fading on the leaves though. Not quite all of them, but a lot of them. And we've got this other plant beside it. This also was originally labeled as a red demon. A lot more vibrancy to the leaves than it looks like in the camera. Definitely, you know, got the rounder tip there. Reminds me very much of a garden salsa. I mean, the differences between these two pepper pods are pretty subtle, but they are evident to me, so it is what it is. Here is that Burpee Lemon Hot. You can see a lot of the leaves have fallen off, but again, not quite all of them. So I need to go around and collect all the debris, but that's going to be a sad, sad adventure. It is what it is, though. This is one of the Ahi Penics. Again, a lot of the leaves, but not all, are falling. It's the other variety, the Ahi Penic there. I am very, very worried. The blue pot there is the paper lantern, and it is not looking good. Blue pot over there, however, is that tomato I mentioned earlier from the raised bed garden. That looks great, so yeah. Mouse melon, not so hot. You know, red demon, red container right there. Not a happy looking pepper. Going up. The Ahi Guyana does look pretty content, and it's a larger version of the double cup system going on there. It's like a 750 ml yogurt container and a 1 kilogram peanut butter jug, I believe, are the sizes of those. The Matchbox pepper, well, it's getting some color, right? Taking a lot of water. Still looks really wilty though. It's hard to know which way to go on that. And so it is with a lot of these peppers. I mean, some of them are looking a lot stronger than others. It's the MOA Scotch Bonnet, for example. This looks like a much healthier pepper than, say, this one here, which is the Sugar Rush Peach. A lot of these leaves are definitely aging, coming off quite simple. No pressure. Got some pods on there still. We do have some nice healthy looking leaves at the top, so I am hopeful. Ah, the El Oro de Ecuador. This pepper has wintered in the basement before. Kind of looked like this at the start of that experience last year. So I am very hopeful it will survive, because it did survive, you know? Maybe not a very strong logic, but that's the one I'm going with all the same. Ah, the Ahiohuchapan. Again, we've got some leaves that are quite clearly dead or dying, coming off quite easy. Still ripening up a few of those peppers though. And I've still got a few flowers hanging on. Most of them are falling off. Doesn't have the nutrients or the light or just too much shock to keep it going, but a few of them are staying on there. The 2016 Sand Dollar. Look at the leaf drop on this puppy, eh? Horrifying, horrifying. But look how much the peppers themselves have grown since it's come in. We have lots of little leaves sticking on here. So I'm kind of hoping what's going on with a lot of these peppers is a transition. Outdoor leaves are dying, taking in what little bit light they can, providing just enough energy and basically your build specs for the new set of leaves coming out that are set up for the fluorescent. This is supposed to be a 6500 Kelvin bulb, but it is a year old, so it might be fading a little bit. But in theory, that should be enough to keep these things going. While we're down here, let's take a look at this pitcher plant. That one's nicely opened. This monster that was growing here, though, took forever, but it did finally open up its top there. So hopefully any aphids that have come around would be feeding the plant. That would be nice. This poor pepper-faced peperomia, not yet recovered. Little lemon tree seems to be doing alright now that it can hog 2 of the lights, though. The mint cutting up here, fairly fresh. It'll take a while, but I'm sure it will root up just fine. Then we slide all the way down to one more of them funky LEDs. My camera just loves this one, I tell you. But here we've got the rosemary. My stanky, stanky rosemary. Oh, and it smells so good. Horrible light spectrum with those lights, though, right? Like, they don't show the plant quite as well as maybe a regular white light would for us, but it's how the plants see the light, not necessarily how we see the light. So in theory they're supposed to be better, but I can't say that I've actually found that to be the case, you know. These fluorescent lights are doing alright. Those little tube LED lights that I've got built into the shelf there, they do alright. So I don't know, I think there might be a lot of hoax going on with those funky ones there, but they do seem to do well for some types of plants, like the herbs and stuff that are growing in the aquaponic garden now under that light, doing incredibly well. I could probably get away with cloning some of the rosemary in there and it would do alright, but I don't know. The rosemary's doing alright in that fabric planter, so I think I'm just going to let it do that for now. I think that's probably where we're going to wrap up today's visit. If you're still around at this point, thank you so much for hanging out. I do appreciate you spending that little bit of your time with me on these strange little garden adventures. And yeah, tomorrow's going to be a break here on this channel. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Take care, everybody. Well, here's a quick postscript question for you. Anybody know if chickens like mint? Yeah. If nothing else, I can feed it to the goldfish and maybe to the chickens. Certainly seems to grow well enough down here.